Welcome back to Boring Reviews.
Boring land.
Oh, just kidding.
Blasphemer.
Hello,
right.
Boring Review Nation.
Kind of pointless.
We know all things. Hello, Boring Review Nation. Gabe.
Nick.
And we are back today to bring you a very special video. It's been a while since we did this, but it's an actual review. Nick, do you want to tell the people what we're reviewing today?
Yes, you've said it, man. I mean, it's been a long time since both of us did a review together. We're looking at Ghajini. Now, we reacted to Ghajini not too long ago, and this is actually a Patreon request from one of our patrons, and they had, they saw our reaction and got really excited. They said, you guys got to watch this and review it. So that's what we're doing here today. This film stars Amir Khan. Now, when we watched the trailer, we both had mentioned how it reminded us of Memento. Right. After watching this film, I would say it's probably like very minimal, the similarities. There are some striking similarities, but it's right. Minimal. It's not the backwards effect like we had in Memento. He does have the short hair and he has the tattoos and the notes and the pictures to remind himself. That whole kind of thing is in that vein, but this is its own movie.
Well, can I tell you something crazy? After this happened, I was like, after I watched this film, I'm like, man, this story is absolutely bananas or whatnot. Did a little research. Yeah, could you imagine me do research? And this is based on a true story. There was actually a Ghajini, and this guy had short-term memory. He was a killer that used to like take pictures to remember stuff. Now, obviously, they took some liberties with this story. He wasn't like a tech billionaire from or millionaire, whatever it is, mogul from cell phones or anything to that effect. But this guy did have short-term memory loss. So, and I was like, wait a minute. So maybe is this where Christopher Nolan got the idea from? Because it's an actual story. Obviously, Memento came out before this movie, but it's an actual real-life story. So I thought that was really, really interesting. But with that being said, you're right. Other than the pictures and the tattoos, the stories are completely different as far as Memento and Ghajini is concerned. And you know what? The tones are really, really different. Okay. To me, Memento had one tone throughout the film. This one absolutely shifts on a dime a couple times. And you're like, wow.
Huge shift. Huge.
Yeah. So it's very different. Nick, you've become the master of giving people like a 5-minute synopsis of I can't do 5-minute anything, all right? So give the people a 5-minute synopsis of what this film is about, and then we'll jump into it, our interpretations, what we like, what we didn't like, the whole gambit.
You got it. I got to ask Savannah if you're the master of the 5-minute chore. Who knows? But so this film, and you talked about tone shift. Holy cow. So this is basically two stories, one in the present, one in the past. And Ghajini is actually the bad guy in this movie. And so we have Amir Khan, and his name is Sanjay. And he is, in the story we start off with, he's this guy, short-term memory loss. He's got the scar on his head, shaved head. He's got this Polaroid camera with him at all times. He takes pictures of everything because he's going to forget everything in 15 minutes. That's just how it works. 15 minutes, he forgets it. He goes through his photos, this or that. Obviously, he can remember some stuff. Obviously, he can remember that he's going out for revenge or whatever. This guy can fight. So he's going off. We see him just beating up this guy starting off and taking a picture. Done. He writes down his Polaroid whenever he kills someone. He writes done. Goes back to his lab, which is this really nice apartment. And he's just trying to investigate what happened. And we don't know what happened until later on. But we find out that there is this girl in his past. When Sanjay, like you said, he's this, we're assuming a billionaire. He's in charge of this Air Voice cell phone company. He inherits it, comes from the U.S. to come into India and to run it. And he's just a regular, really, really nice guy. He's not like psychopathic at all. He's just really, it's so different than what we see in the present. And it's funny because there's this girl, right? And let me get her name right because her name escapes me at this time. But we have this girl named Kalpana, played by Asin. And this Kalpana, she wants to be a model in commercials. Right now, she's just a stand-in extra. Long story short, Sanjay's company wants to buy billboard space above her house. They ask her for permission. People want to know, why is Sanjay calling you? She creates this whole story, and it's kind of not her fault, but then she carries it too much that Sanjay's falling in love with her, that they're going to get married, and this whole kind of thing. She makes this whole story how they meet, and so she's telling everyone. She even gets in a newspaper or in a magazine article about how they fell in love. And so Sanjay's getting mad, but he's kind of calm and collected. He wants to go and confront her about this whole story that's being made because he's getting phone calls. You're getting married. What's going on? And he just instantly falls in love with her. He instantly adores her. And so he does not ever tell her who he is. And he makes her believe that he's someone else named Sachin, right? Like the cricketer. And that he wants to be around her. And every time he means to tell her what's going on, he just wants that secret to happen longer because he just wants to spend time with her. And when you go back and forth, the tones are so different. One is bubbly and colorful and singing, and she's not the best actress in this movie. She's all over the top here or there. And then in the present, he's trying to investigate. We find out that from Ghajini, he's this crime lord or whatever, this mob boss. He's got his hands in everything illegal. This guy ends up being the one that kills Kalpana, almost kills him, gives him the scar. And so it's in the present, trying to figure out who Ghajini is. In the past, we're learning the whole love story. And I went through that love story really, really fast. It is a nice love story, but it kind of goes through how they got together and how they fell in love. And that was really nice. So that's my 5-minute or less synopsis.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you did a fabulous job. The only thing I would say is the third angle of the story is the medical student who at the very beginning becomes interested with his case. And she is a big part of the integral part of the film because she starts meddling and figuring out what's going on. She actually ends up revealing to Ghajini because Ghajini didn't even know who was trying to kill him or who was killing off his men. So she reveals to Ghajini who it is and puts him in trouble, but she redeems herself. I remember talking to you midway through the movie. I was like, I'm so pissed at this chick. And he's like, dude, she redeems herself. It's okay. She redeems herself. She's not a bad person, but she was just like, hey, this guy's crazy. He's got all these tattoos on him. They killed Kapana. I killed this person, that person. So obviously she was concerned, especially when he showed up at her college to try to extract information from her.
I'll try to pull him back like 20 guys. Her heart is definitely in the right place. She first wants to help him out because she hears about his case as a medical student. She wants to help him out. Even takes a picture, writes friend on it so you won't forget it. We're friends. And then, like you said, she finds out that he wants to kill this Ghajini guy. Right. She tries to help this guy out. He's like a big donor at her school and other places. And it's funny because when he finds out someone's trying to kill him before he finds out who it is, right. I mean, he goes and takes out everybody that has beef with him. And I thought that was serious gangster. He just takes, and he literally says, we took out everybody. There's nobody left.
There's nobody's left. Yeah, we took out everybody. That was pretty gangster. And he said, you know what? It can't be any of these guys because when I came, these guys showed fear. They knew who I was. There was fear in their eyes. I tell you what, you did a great job. I watched this entire film with Savannah, and again, two tones. She was so interested in the love story, and she loved the love story. She thought it was endearing. The fact that the love story is actually being told through his not memoir, but through his
journal.
Through his journal, you know what I'm saying? She loved that part. She's like, oh, it's cool that he never revealed it because she wants to know if she loves him for him or for the money. Like, I thought that was where the movie slowed down. Again, two tones for me. I loved, and again, I'm biased. Yes, I don't like the love stories, but Amir Khan did a fabulous job, by the way, playing both roles, playing the deranged psycho killer, I'm out for revenge, and then, the love interest. But the movies didn't fit. To me, any which way, the tones didn't fit. And I was just like, I don't know how I feel about this film. Again, I love Amir Khan. I've said it many times. This guy's an artist. And if these were two separate movies, just, hey, the girl, you could have made a movie just out of that, a romantic flick, a rom-com where this girl is selling or saying that this guy's in love with her when he was just really trying to buy advertising space over her house. She meets him. She starts training him as an actor because he doesn't reveal who he is to her or whatever. That would have worked in and of itself just as a film. But then you throw in this movie, this action scene, and I tell you what, that scene was so gruesome when they did go to the apartment and they took them both out. Like, they just both didn't fit for me. And even Savannah was like, what just happened? What movie are we watching here? So, I mean, I loved, again, Amir Khan's performance, but the two tones were just off to me. You know what I mean? With that being said, man, I mean, Amir Khan, is there anything else you can say about this guy? This guy gets ripped like it's easy. All right. He should have his own workout video. You know what I'm saying? Forget, what's that dude's name back in the 80s? Richard Simmons. He started like the workout video revolution. Yeah. Bro, this guy, he looked like he had 0% body fat in this film, first and foremost, especially when he was, the deranged Amir Khan. And even though there were some things where, like, for instance, when he's taking out the gang towards the end and going towards them, you're like, it's like 50 of you guys, really? But he's so deranged and so menacing, you know what I'm saying? You buy it. You absolutely buy it. And I'm like, oh man, this guy's unhinged. You know what I mean? Like,
let me jump in here because I might not get a chance. So I want to go back to what you said about the two tones, because I felt the same exact way as I was watching the movie. It was something that for me, it wasn't just like a small thing. For me, it was kind of a big deal because it was so different. I was so enthralled with the gritty and, the action and the violence and all that kind of stuff of what he was doing and what he could do. And then you would switch. And it wasn't so much that the tone was so different. His character was polar opposites. I could almost buy that if you explained to me, short-term memory loss. He doesn't remember everything. All he knows is that he's got to go out and get revenge. So he's going to be completely different. But for me, Kalpana, the actress that played Kalpana, as beautiful as she was, and I feel like she got better as the movie went on, the first 40 minutes we have of her acting, in my opinion, was just, it was noticeably bad. And I'm not trying to make fun of her. I'm not trying to hurt anyone that's a fan of her. This girl, she knows like 7 or 8 languages, this actress does. She's super, super talented. She's in almost every industry in India. She's done different things in her career. So she's obviously very versatile. But she just had like this Disney Junior, like overacting style to her. Once she spent more time on screen with Amir Khan, visibly it was noticeable that she was much better, because you have acting where you're not always going to be an Amir Khan. You're not always going to be a Tom Hanks. You're not always going to be a Meryl Streep, but you're not distracting from the movie. And for me, at least, her acting was distracting from the movie, especially when she would tell the story about how her and Sanjay met and all this kind of stuff. Like, it just was a little over the top. Again, she got much better. Her acting in that scene when it was brutal and Ghajini's in their apartment, that was phenomenal. She did a much, much better job. So I'm not going to destroy her as an actress, but it did take me out of it a little bit. That was my biggest thing with those two tones. I liked the music. I actually did like the love story. I liked how this, the police officer is chasing after Sanjay, and, he ties him up and he's going through his stuff and he gets enthralled with the story. And so he's all curious and he wants to know more and he feels bad for him. The girl that dimes him out, the same exact, she's reading it with her friends and they're like, oh, this is so sweet. I actually really, really liked that. I think Jody watched like half of it with me. She enjoyed that too. So I didn't mind, like you said, the two different stories on their own, but they just didn't really mesh well. I'm not exactly sure why they felt the need to go so opposite. If you would have told me there was 2 directors, then I would have no problem with it, because that would make sense. You do your film, I'll do my film, and we'll put it together. It was just so odd, because at the same time, I would think even with short-term memory loss, you're gonna retain some of what you are as a person. And he was just such a nice, likable, non-violent guy when he had everything about him. And then when he's 15-minute short-term memory loss, he's just so brutal. And he knows all of these martial arts, and no one can stop him. Like, for me, that was just a little too much.
No, definitely. And I mean, they did give you some backstory where they showed you him working out in the apartment. Obviously, that's how he got yoked. Again, you know what I mean? Like I said, the 2 stories, it was weird. I will say this, though, that for a guy who doesn't like rom-coms, I would have took the 2 separate storylines, because Amir Khan is just so good in that first role, as the billionaire, the love interest who, I don't even want you to know how much money I want, like the way Savannah explained it to me.
Yeah, like the apartment that she won in a contest. Like, most guys, come on. Most guys are going to take full credit for that. Like, come on.
Yeah, everything, you know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm like, man, but putting them together didn't work. And think about Memento. In Memento, it was pretty similar, right? He was out for revenge because they killed his wife or whatever. But they gave you that throwaway line about his wife. They gave you maybe 1 or 2 flashbacks. That's enough. That gives you the motivation. You don't have to give us an entire separate film to justify it, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? The revenge angle. But with that being said, I did not like Kalpana's acting just like you did the most. You know whose acting I really, really liked? I liked let me make sure I pronounce his name right. Pardoin Rawat, who plays Ghajini. And bro, you know, I love the bad guys, but this guy was such a gangster. Like you said, at one point, they try to come after me. He doesn't know who it is. He took out everybody, all his enemies.
Oh,
you know,
man.
I mean, yeah, that was so cool. And I think the coolest thing about this guy was they gave him a real motivation. Okay, he's a gangster. Everybody knows he's a gangster in that area. All the politicians, all the cops know he's a gangster. He's into all types of stuff, and he didn't go after Kaplana for no reason. She stuck her nose where it didn't belong, and it affected him. And like he said, you know, she pointed out my men. You know what I'm saying? That's why he went after that one specific. He was involved in human trafficking.
I totally forgot about that. She was so. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I love the character. She's such an awesome character. She was so sweet. She's going to put her neck out on the line. But I mean, you got to think like this is you're putting yourself in very dangerous ground. I totally forgot about that.
And I like the fact that this guy was a believable character. Okay, not to make this, and I mean, I may be going even too far by making this comparison, but we've seen guys in this day and age, Jeffrey Epstein, who were that kind of guy. You know what I'm saying? Like there's these monsters. You know what I mean? These real monsters in society, and that's who this guy was. And you know, I think the only thing that bothered me about that whole thing, okay, maybe I would or would not react this way, but with her being warned multiple times by even the police, you know who this guy is. Are you really willing to stick your neck out? I mean, I don't know, man. I'm sure there are very altruistic people like that out in the world, but one of my uncle says one of the toughest things about making a case, especially when people know you got to go to court, is getting people to testify. They don't want no parts of it, because once you testify, your name's on public record. Those people have friends, they have families. You know what I'm saying? And I get it that they try to, especially in the beginning with like the whole Catholic school girls, the disabled girls. She helped her cross the little bridge or whatever it was. She's a real kind-hearted, sweet person. But does that mean you're gonna risk your life? You know what I mean? Like I don't know.
She just seems like a very selfless person. I mean, case in point, she wants to. Her dream is to fulfill. What was it? Her father's dream or her uncle's dream about getting those cars, right?
Her father, yeah.
And so she saves. She saves. She gets the first car. She's so excited. As soon as, and it's just so ironic because Sanjay is filthy rich. As soon as she thinks that he needs help for a story he makes up, because he has to go on a business trip to London, but he doesn't want to reveal who he is. So he says, I got to go back to my hometown. You know, my mom needs surgery or something like that. We got to sell this small farm. We have to do it. Instantly, she sells her car, and here you go. And if you know anything about the car business, you don't get back what you bought it for. You just don't. 5 seconds later, the value goes way down. But she's willing to do that in an instant with a smile on her face. Like, she seems like someone that jumps into things. Case in point, her whole story about Sanjay, she just goes with it. She doesn't think that this guy's writing the story down. He could be a reporter. She just goes with it. And, you know, whatever. We'll see what happens. She has that devil may care type attitude, but in a very sweet way. But I'm with you. I mean, that's a big risk. But the cool thing is her legacy, her character's legacy will live on, because when they go back and they investigate and they find that girl at that school, and she's just like, oh, yeah, Kalpana, she saved my life. This is what she did. And so many other ladies' lives. I mean, human trafficking, I mean, it's got to be the worst thing out there, right? I mean, I can't imagine, besides murder, what is worse than that. And maybe in some arguments, maybe it's worse than murder because of the psychological effect that you're putting on these people. But she's able to save all these people from it. It was super, super cool. But, man, I mean, you're right. That scene where she meets her demise, it's a heartbreaking scene, but it was a very powerful scene. I agree completely with the whole Ghajini thing. I love how Amir Khan's character, Sanjay, he sets a trap to meet Ghajini in the parking lot of that performance. And the guy's just like, this guy keeps giving me a call, goes to his henchman, you go take care of it, like a true boss would. Because then when the henchman comes in there, Amir Khan's character can't remember what Ghajini looks like, and so he just takes that guy out.
Kills
and it's for Ghajini that he didn't want to get up and take care of it. But I just wanted a tangent right there. There's a lot of things about this movie I really, really liked. It was just the two tones kind of threw me off.
Right. And I tell you what, again, this just shows you the multifaceted approach of Amir Khan, where in the same film he can play two different characters and both be so good. If there's any fault with this film, it's not Amir Khan's performance.
Nope.
It's the direction of the film, but it's definitely not Amir Khan's performance. I mean, I think I mentioned just about everything I wanted to mention about this movie. I don't necessarily want to give away the whole movie. Obviously, we always do spoiler reviews, but anything else I thought to mention about it?
Yeah, so I mean, one more thing, and it's kind of silly, but people out there, they don't know. I really like the first Boggy movie a lot. I know it's stupid fun, but I like it a lot. And there's a whole lot of bone breakage scenes in that movie. Oh man, in this film, it's funny because I'm watching it. I watched like in two different locations one day, and at that part, I was downstairs on the main TV, and my kids went downstairs like a Saturday to get a snack or whatever. Oh, Dad, what are you watching? They never ask me that. They can, no offense, but they can care less when I'm watching an Indian film. They come up, get the thing, and they leave. Oh, Dad, what are you watching? Oh, it's just this cool movie. And then all of a sudden, I had no idea. Bone break. Amir Khan goes off as his best Tiger Shroff. And I was like, no, get out of the room. You can't watch it. I can't find the remote. I mean, you can't make this stuff up, but man, that was brutal. And of course, once they leave, the rest of the fight, there's no more bone breakage. I mean, you can't make this kind of stuff up, but I did like it. That was the last thing I wanted to mention.
No, definitely. That was a cool action scene. And again, they didn't make him into this unbelievable superhero like you saw. The cop was able to subdue him. Okay, the cops at the school were able to subdue him or whatnot. But you saw that this dude was absolutely, a soldier, bro. He's a warrior. And I think one of the biggest things about the way he played this character was they made it so believable because it wasn't just that he forgot, but his facial expressions, you could tell when that 15 minutes was up, because then he almost had this like deer in the headlight look. This is like, stop in the middle of everything. Just stop. Like, what? You ever been talking to somebody and then, oh, I just lost my train of thought? That's the facial expression it was. And you knew, like, towards the end with that whole Ghajini situation, you just knew. I was looking at my clock. Oh man, 15 minutes. You got 15 minutes, dude. Hurry up. Get it. I'm thinking the whole time, 15 minutes is going to come into play. 15 minutes. And of course it came into play. But, and I just love that. It was just like a light switch. And you could tell, like, blank slate right away. And so believable. I'm glad that the filmmakers throughout the film stuck to that and kept it going. Sometimes in films they forget. They set something up in the beginning and completely forget to come back to it towards the end. They did that here, and I love that. And even at the very end of the film, when the medical student comes back up to him, she starts talking to him. It's not like he's miraculously cured. She comes up to him. She's like, "I'm your friend." Takes out the picture, shows the picture that, hey, you took this picture, you signed it. I love that they kept that consistency throughout the film. Again, just the two different tones that throws me off.
Yeah, that was sweet too, because his hair grew out a little bit, so you can kind of see him kind of blending the two Sanjays together. That was cool. You talk about him forgetting things, and he did a great job with that. How about that scene where he's chasing the girl that dimes him out, and then she gets to the store and she remembers from looking at him. She's like, "Oh, it's 15 minutes, might be up," and she's like, "Okay, let's go." And he's like, "Let's go." She's like, "Oh yeah, we're here at the store. Let's get going." And then he can tell like her sweat and his sweat. And he's like, "Wasn't I just chasing you?" Like, what? I mean, that was awesome. And then she had to fight those guys at the mall. They distracted. She was awesome, man.
That was good. That was a good part. Like, she did a much better, and we didn't give her any credit. She did a much better part. And I thought they were going to make her the love interest, but they never did. His heart was captain, but she was just the other woman. And her name was Sunita. Her real name is Jai Khan. Jai Khan did a fabulous job as an actress.
Yeah, I thought she did a great job. What would you give this as a grade, my friend?
I love Amir Khan. I'm a huge fan. I've mentioned him several times. I think the guy's an artist. But to me, this is one of those films that it was a miss. You know what I mean? It wasn't a slam dunk. It wasn't Dongo. It wasn't. I mean, I can name so many movies. PK, Three Idiots. I'm a huge fan, but just the direction, the two different tones really bothered me. Not sure why the director basically, like you said, took two movies and smashed them together. So for that reason, I got to give it a B. Solid B, not a bad film whatsoever, but not my favorite Amir Khan film. I think it has more to do again with the direction. Like this literally felt like two separate movies. Like you're trying to throw Die Hard and Pretty Woman together. It don't work, brother. It don't work.
That's actually a really good comparison right there, because those are two great movies on their own, but it would not work together. Man, I mean, a B is pretty close to what I'm going to give it. I mean, I could honestly go B minus, B, or B plus. Since I'm all over the place, I'm going to say a B as well, not to be a copycat. I think this is a very good film. There's a lot of things about it that I really enjoyed. But when I go into my grade, I do think about technical things. I think about acting, and I think those two things brings my score down. And the story itself is interesting, but the movie itself wasn't so unbelievable amazing where I was able to just forgive those things. Like in Boggy, I know for most people it's not an A. I give it an A because I really enjoy that movie. But for this one, I'm giving it a solid B. I think Amir Khan is absolutely phenomenal. I think the guy who plays Ghajini is really, really good. I think Sunita, the girl that played her, was good. But besides Amir Khan, I don't think there's anyone that gives that level of performance for it, again, to go above a B. That's my grade. Let us know what your grade is for this film. The trailer made it look seriously captivating. The movie, for the most part, held up to that. Let us know what you think, please. And thank you for watching our video. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you like what you see here. And until next time.
We know all things.